Hey guys, welcome to the next video on Python tutorial for beginners. In the last few videos, we have seen how to handle exceptions in Python. Now in this video, I'm going to show you how to raise an exception in Python. Now raising an exception is similar to throw an error or exception in the languages like Java or C++. So Python allows us to use a keyword called raise, and that raise statement or keyword allows the programmer to force a specific exception to occur. So let's get started and let's see this raise statement with an example. So to start with, I have created a class called coffee cup, which have an init method which takes one argument, which is the temperature, and I'm just initializing the value of temperature using this init method. And this coffee cup class also have one more method which is called drink coffee, and inside this drink coffee method I have some conditions. So if the temperature is greater than 85, then I print coffee is too hot. If the temperature is less than 65, then I print coffee is too cold. And if the temperature is between 65 and 85, then I print that coffee is okay. And here I have created an instance of coffee cup class with an argument which is 75 to start with, and I'm just calling this method drink coffee from this object. So let's run the code and let's see what happens. So because this 75 is neither satisfying this condition nor this condition, so the answer which is printed here is coffee okay to drink. Now when I provide, for example, 101 temperature value here, and when I run the code once again, it will say coffee too hot. If I say coffee temperature is 10, it says coffee too cold. Now in these two situations, when the coffee is too hot or the coffee is too cold, I can also throw an exception and show the user some kind of message. So instead of printing that coffee is too hot, I can use a keyword called raise, and then I can use any class of exception. So we can use the exception class or any subclass of exception. And you can see this exception class comes in this built-in module. So I'm going to just use this exception, which is the base class, and same I'm going to do here when the coffee is cold, and I'm going to comment these two print statements. And now when I run the code, it throws an exception without any error. So it throws an exception, and after that the execution of program stops. So right now temperature is 10, which satisfies this condition. So this exception is thrown, and that's why we see this exception. So in Python, we can throw an exception using this keyword raise and this exception class or any subclass of this exception class. Now in the last video also I have shown you how to see all the subclasses which are under the exception class. To see them, you can just open your Python console, and in the Python console you just need to import built-ins and then press enter, and now you use a method called help, and inside the help method you use this keyword built-ins and then press enter, which is going to give you a big list here. And when you scroll up at the top, you will see classes here, and under the classes you will see BaseException, and we have used this class which is exception, you can see here. So to raise an exception, you can use this exception class or any subclass under this exception. So you can use arithmetic error, or you can use reso division error, buffer error, whatever error is appropriate for your exception, you can use from this list. So right now I have just used the exception class, which is the base class, to throw an exception. Here instead of exception, I can also use, for example, exception called value.Error, which is also the subclass of this exception class. And now when I run the code, it will show me the value error. So this is the one way of throwing an exception in Python. Now with these exceptions, you can also pass an argument inside the parentheses. So you can write exception, and then in the parentheses you can write the message whatever you want to show when this exception is thrown. So here I can just write coffee is too hot, and for the another exception I'm going to just say coffee too cold. And when I run the code, because it's a value exception which comes from this statement, it shows the value error exception and then the message which we want to show. So we are just showing coffee too cold. So here it also prints the same message which we have given as the first argument of this exception error class. So you can either raise an exception with the base class exception or the subclass of the base class exception, for example value error, and you can also give an optional argument here which is the message which will be displayed at the time when this exception is thrown. So this is how you can raise or throw an exception in Python. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next video.